All right, cool. So we are recording. So okay, thank you, Mr. Snaith. Welcome to this podcast, which I like to call the High Performance Zone, and it's just me getting to know high performance. You know, I'm really intrigued on this idea of high performing and just being the ultimate sports person that you can be. And basically, we're just gonna have a conversation where I get to know you as an athlete, which I'd like to think of you as an athlete or a coach or a trainer in this case. And yeah, I'm really intrigued by your story and your achievements. So I'd like to start off by asking you about how you actually got into racing. You know, how were you as a kid? What inspired you? And yeah, just tell me about your background.
Well, look, one thing we were very fortunate about is that we've always lived on a farm. So my brother and I were terrors as kids, running around a farm, a horse farm. My father was a show jumper, became amateur horse rider. He captained Western Province for about 7 years in show jumping. He was a very talented horseman, but we were fortunate that we grew up in the same environment on a farm. And I think that's what always gave us an advantage over very much people our own age, youngsters, is that we were on a farm. A lot of people will either, live at home where there's not much space and will always have to travel to be around animals. We were one of those fortunate kids that grew up on a farm. So it started at a young age.
So this is, you obviously got Jonathan, who's your brother. Do you have any other siblings?
No, just John and I. We didn't always used to get on as kids. We used to kill each other.
Yeah, I can imagine.
My mother breaking many wooden spoons. I'll never forget. I was a kid, and my father had a new owner bring us some horses, and he said, "Oh, do you mind if my son drives around on the farm with your son on a motorbike?" And I was quite competitive at the time, and as we went over a jump, I kicked him off his bike, so it didn't go down well. So that competitive streak started at a young age.
Started at a young age, eh? And you and Jonathan, did you guys used to you obviously used to have your own conflicts and fights, and as young boys growing up, boys will be boys.
Oh, without a doubt. No, we were bad. I mean, we were tough. Jonathan was as a young kid, never said a word. But then used to retaliate when he needed to. He certainly grew up tough with an older brother like myself. I gave him hell all the time, so it was crazy. But we were very, very tough growing up. And quite honestly, I think you have to be. There's nothing easy about life, and it was harder at home than in the real world. So it was a great way to grow up. We were very fortunate. We didn't grow up in any fancy area or anything. We were literally in Muizenberg, which isn't far from Mitchell's Plain and places like those. Those were the neighboring towns. So we grew up not wealthy kids at all, or fancy in any way.
Yeah.
We were lucky just to have what we had, and we lived accordingly.
And did you guys used to fight? You and Jonathan, obviously, I'm sure.
Flat out, we fought all the time. So when we used to go to the movies, Jonathan, it was always funny about germs. So if I wanted all the popcorn, all I had to do was sneeze on it, and then Jonathan wouldn't touch it. So it was things like that. And whenever we had physical fights, he used to. I always used to think I may have the upper hand, but he was so tough. All he used to do was grab onto my hand, hold for life, and I used to give up. He wouldn't let go. But it made us a bond stronger. We very close, and now we close to. I'm in my 40s, close to his 40s. We business partners, and there's nothing like being in business with family. You trust each other, and the truth of it, we don't pull salaries. We never have. The family business runs accordingly, and a Snaith family member has never taken a salary home. So we live within means. Like I said, from when we started, so nothing has ever changed. We've never taken a salary home.
Mm-hmm. So obviously the business that you guys are in is it mainly in racing, or is there other businesses that you guys might have?
Look, we do what we need to get certain things in life that we want and may not be able to afford. So we live in some nice houses, and when we needed to buy in what everyone wants to go into a nice area, we may not have been able to afford it. Jonathan's become a builder, so we would find the worst house, and Jonathan all of a sudden became a builder and redid the entire houses. And it's certainly Jonathan's one of those guys that when he needs to be something, he'll make a plan and make it happen. And you know, you got to in life, especially at the moment, everyone is going to be building a lot of character.
100%.
And you have to do things. You're going to have to do things yourself. Gone are the days where you could just live these lavish lives and stuff. It's going to be hard.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. So let's go back to when you were a kid and how you got inspired to get into racing. Your father was a trainer, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. So my father was a trainer. As I said, we lived on the farms. I was when I first started getting, even when I was at boarding school, my father used to drive me to show jumping, all those things. He used to pick me up. I always had a passion for horses. We have always ridden horses our whole lives. From kids, from 2 years old, my mother used to carry me on a horse at a show
Nice.
and pick up a rosette. So that's where our background was. And when Jonathan and I used to go to shows and used to win, they give you a rosette. That's where I think Jonathan left showing. He realized that's going to cost a lot of money to do. So Jonathan went more into accounting and getting his degree. I carried on with horses. I'll never forget, I was doing my matric final, and my father would have me up at 6 o'clock in the morning. In the middle of my matric final, I'm about to go do my English paper, and my father had me writing work.
Jeez.
So every morning of every matric final I wrote a paper, I was already at the track in the morning, and I'd ridden probably 15 horses. Straight rush to class, get my matric, and then I went managed to get that, and
was it
went
hard?
Straight to Australia. Yeah, it was, because it was I never thought it a priority. Jonathan was more an academic. I wasn't. My priority was either rugby, athletics, horses. Yeah, I played a lot of rugby.
What position did you play? I used to play rugby as well, even though I'm so skinny now.
No, I was always the smallest guy on the field. So at Craven Week, I played fullback. And then when I left, I played a little bit of Craven Week, to be honest. I was probably more.
But at least you made it then. That's a good thing.
Well, it wasn't easy. I was at a school where you had to go through 4 qualifications to get to playing at any type of level. So I've got to play a couple B-side Craven Week games.
Okay.
But when I left school, then I had to move to fullback. It found like it was a better position for me. I used to catch a good up and under, and I played at False Bay for years. 5 years I played for their under 21 A side in their first team, and then I played in Durban for a little bit for Crusaders. Played 2 years for Crusaders in Durban, which was great fun. I loved it.
Nice. But then while you were playing, you still had horse racing at the back of your mind. I'm sure horse racing
was always working. I was working in horses. I was working already. I was working flat out in stables. Saturdays were a problem for games, always. For rugby games, Saturday mornings. So I used to have to rush between work in the morning, play a rugby game, and then get to races. So it was always quite hard, especially when you were playing away. It became harder. But so I played about 5 years after 6 years after school. But before I started rugby outside of school, I went to Australia for about a year and a half to work for David Hayes, which was unbelievable. I loved every minute of it. Working for the Top Yard in Australia, and we had an incredible season.
Yeah. So were you work riding, or were you now? This was obviously before you started your assistant training. and applying for being a
Correct.
trainer?
So as soon as I finished matric, I went straight to Australia. I was a lot thinner then, and I was a full-time work rider. So I would ride in the mornings some of the best horses in Australia. I got to ride Jeune in that right up to the Melbourne Cup. So on the slow days, I would ride him, and then on the fast days, the jockeys would come in and ride. So and I strapped a horse called Blevik.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeune went on to win the Melbourne Cup while I was there.
Nice.
And I got to hold the Melbourne Cup.
Nice.
Still have the photo. And Blevik won the Australian Derby. So it was amazing. It's just so fortunate. At the time, Blevik was owned by Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum, and I got to meet him at Flemington.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "We're thinking of opening up. Well, there's racing getting going in Dubai, and would I be interested to go?" And at the time I was 19, and I've been in Australia for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I said, "Sorry, Your Highness, but I need to get back home." I may turn out to regret that.
Yeah. How was the experience in Australia? Because I always hear stories of that. The trainers in fact, not just the trainers, but the racing industry in Australia is just it's unbelievable. It's crazier. The guys work harder there, and it's just different from South Africa. How was that experience?
Well, look, when I was there, it was about 94.
Yeah,
I think it was about 1994 I was there, so a long time ago. But when I was, racing was doing well, but it was never doing what it's doing now. So it just shows you that you can turn around racing, which can happen here in South Africa as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When I was there, it was popular and it was going okay, but it just went one way.
Yeah.
And they just cleaned up the show. Everything was done more professionally. They got junior stewards in, which were on the boards of all the companies. They would have guys straight out of varsity. They made it fun at the race course. They entertained people. The whole idea was to get dressed up, not arriving in slip-slops. They made a major effort into turning it into what it is now. So don't think it's always been like that.
Yeah.
These guys worked really hard. The right people in the right positions turned Australian racing from, yes, going all right, but they took it to another level.
Nice. And then from there, you came back home and you started work riding for your father, I'm guessing?
Well, look, I always did, and I worked for my dad I came back and I went straight to the Durban season. But I was just an assistant. That's why I said at the time I was playing a full-time rugby. So I was working flat out as an assistant trainer to my father. I was playing for False Bay's first side rugby. And then I went to the Durban season. So I did all the Durban seasons for my father while I was assistant to him. And then he said to me, I must go work for Mike Bass. He's a great horseman. I'll learn a lot. So I went to work for Mike Bass for over a year, I think. And then he said I must go to St. John Gray in Joburg because he's probably one of the brightest trainers in the country. A very, very shrewd businessman. And if I can manage him, I can manage any other type of business owner that I'm going to deal with in the future. So I went and did those two, and I learned everything I needed to from those different types of trainers. And then I went to Clive Britton for a little while in the UK, just for a little while. And then I was going to Bob Baffert in the States. By now I was 25.
Geez, you traveled a lot though, eh?
You have to. I believe that if you want to be a trainer, especially here in South Africa, and you haven't traveled, I don't think you've learned enough. You cannot learn enough being an assistant to another trainer here in South Africa. It's not good enough. You have to experience overseas training methods. And do you remember, over time, we've fallen more and more behind the rest of the world in
100%.
Horse racing, like Australia, like the UK and America and places like that. And we need to keep up with that. And the way to do that is for people to travel.
And expose themselves to different types of training and the way.
You have to. You have to. Because of the finance involved and the conditions overseas that they have, you have to experience what's happening in other countries. So that was but I never got to Bob Baffert. At 25, I was 25 years old. Everything was organized, and then my father came to me and said, "Listen, I'm becoming a private trainer, and you need to start training." And I said, "Like, what? I'm 25?
Yeah.
Are you joking?
Yeah.
I'm not going to last." So,
but before that, sorry, Justin, to cut you off, but before that,
yes.
did you ever
Yes.
think that you'd be like one of the best trainers in South Africa when you were younger, when you're playing rugby and in school? Did you ever believe in yourself, like have the confidence in yourself while you were still growing up, while you were playing rugby, when you were traveling, that, you know what, I'm better than the rest, I'm a high performer? Did you ever believe that you were going to make it to this point?
I always thought, I had a lot of confidence that I was always way ahead of other people in racing that were my age.
Yeah.
So let's say at 25,
Mm-hmm.
I'd accomplished way more than any other 20. I always felt like that. I always
100%.
wanted to be ahead of the guy. Because you're at school, you're under 19 sports, and rugby under 21, rugby open. I was always associated to ages, age. So I always looked, when I was in athletics, you're always competing against people your age. So I always put that into racing and looked around to see other people my age that were in the racing industry and where they were. Mm-hmm. And I always felt that I was way ahead of them. And I always pushed for that. I always, how can I be better than the other young trainer's son or the other trainer's daughter? Uh-huh. How can I be better than them now? And I always managed to push. That was always my, at the time. So I always, being a good trainer was never really my worry. That was always my goals. But once I started training, I thought, oh, I'm gonna hammer these guys. Yeah. I was always, this is going to be easy. Yeah. You know, I really thought, I'm going to rock up in the morning. I'm going to train these horses. I'm going to the race course, and I'm collecting the winner's check.
100%. Yeah.
And the glory and everything. And I thought this was just it's going to be simple, and it's going to rewrite all the record books. And I tell you what, the first year was all right.
Yeah. Carry on.
So John and I, we started training when I was 25, which was in 2000, and we started well. We had 4 Group 2 winners in the first 4 months. So if we started in August, before the end of December, we already had 4 Group 2 winners. And I thought,
and this was in the beginning of your career.
Correct. So we only had 14 horses. We only started with 14 horses. So because my father moved with all his horses, it left us with only, at the time, 14 horses. I'll never forget, the yard was half empty, half full. Mm-hmm. And that's what we started with, 114 horses. But in those 14 horses were really good horses. We were lucky. You know, they could run like the wind. And before you knew it, we had 4 Group 2 winners in the first 4 months. And we thought it was easy, but it wasn't. The next year was a bad year. It was very hard. And that's why I realized that anybody can really train a horse. It's who can be a good trainer and who then becomes a bad trainer when things go wrong. So when the horses are feeling good and we started, it was all easy. But when a virus hit and the horse went unsound or things like that, I had to learn very fast as to how to keep those horses winning races. So that's what the next few years of my career were all about, was learning, but I had to learn fast. 100%. Everything was, it had to come quick because we were only 25 years old and training against some of the top trainers in South Africa. Exactly. So because now
at this stage now, you can't benchmark yourself to age. Doesn't matter now. You correct. Now you're competing with people who are older than you, and you need to now change your mindset. For 30
years.
Exactly.
Correct. And I've been training for I've just started. So it was a very, very, very hard few years. Mm-hmm. But you know, my brother and I stuck to it. We worked extremely hard, marketing, starting new innovative ways of communicating with clients. We started taking horses to the beach. And then, you know, as we started all these things, the other trainers started doing similar things. And we just like to think that it's been good for the racing industry. But there's no shortcuts. There have been no shortcuts for my brother and I, and we've really worked hard to be where we are.
Nice. That's really, really interesting. You know what I'm getting from you is that you've always been a high performer, even when you were young, playing rugby, going back to and then in the morning you're working work, you know, you're doing work at the track and all of that stuff. So you always worked hard. And okay, now you in your career, and let's just jump a few years. What has been like the highlight for you? Okay, obviously the highlight probably the July, but just tell me what are some of the things that you've learned in your career as a trainer. You know, what are some of the things that you think really helped you be where you are now?
A team. It would have to be a team. I think that's what, when I said I started as a trainer and I thought this is going to be easy. The reason why I think we didn't have the success that we could have had early on in my career is that I never had the team that we have today. Mm-hmm. It is very hard for another trainer to come take us on with the depth and the what we've built to where we are now. We have the most amazing clients. We've managed to entice some amazing people to the racing industry. You got the experience from my father. You got Jonathan's ability to do all sorts of things, as we'll see, as we've seen now in horse racing, from a different side of it, where he's trying to help racing to go forward. As I said, my clients don't want to talk about individuals, but just in general, they've been amazing. You got my father. We get the experience still there. We have the most incredible assistants. I have three women assistants, and they're all from the town. Yeah. Those are my staff at they're machines. I wouldn't swap them for any of the oaks out there. I can assure you, they are. Fantastic.
Don't be sexist now. Why are you being discriminative to the guys?
Because they're so good. I'm embarrassed with the guys compared to these girls. They're tougher than the guys. They're everything. So I'm very, very impressed by them. And obviously we've had John Freeman very involved as our agent in all aspects of racing, and obviously helping with certain clients, keeping them informed and stuff like that. So between John Freeman, my dad, everybody, it's been great, and it's a very, very strong team.
Yeah. And when did you have your first good horse? So after you started, and then when did you start now having really good horses and you were starting to win big races, like humongous races?
We've always been fortunate. My father had a very good eye for a horse. So as I said, when we started with those 14 horses, in there were some very good horses. And Jonathan has seemed to have picked up that good eye. And I think what is a very important thing for a lot of young trainers is you can pick as good a horse as you think you can. If you can't get your patrons and people to pay for it, you can pick anything you want. You ain't going to get it.
Yeah, so you need to be able to sell as well.
Without a doubt, that's the biggest asset.
100%.
There are some brilliant trainers. There are some brilliant trainers that are better than me.
Yeah.
But they go to the sales and they cannot get the horse that they need.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the owner and the skills to maybe acquire that horse.
Yeah.
So
this is the business side of the sport now.
Correct. You can be as good as you want. It's like anything. You can be the best rugby player in the world, but if you're not in the right team, you can play all you want. It's not going to help you.
Yeah.
So you've got to have it. There's a broad spectrum of what you need to be able to do. So so that's a big asset to us.
Yeah. And what are some of the, how do you actually choose a good horse? How do you actually pick a great horse? What are some of the things that you look for? How do you go through that?
So, I mean, as you asked me as well, what good horse. So we started with a horse, Badge of Honor. Funny enough, we're very lucky. He ran in all the big races. He won the premiers, and a filly called Trojan Bell. She won the Majorca in the first, which is now Group 1. So those are all, and we consistently found good. My father, as a trainer as well, always found a good horse. I mean, people know he might not have been the numbers trainer or anything like that, but he always managed to have that little superstar that would upset the big guns on a day. He would have a lot from Lord Randolph and Lurg, and the guys will tell you stories. I mean, there's amazing stories where a riding school horse came past, and he went to the girl riding and said, "Oh, sorry, is that a thoroughbred?" And the lady said, the little girl said, "Yes, my mommy bought it for me," and this and that. So he says, "Oh, can I chat to your mother?" So he would go over there and he'd buy the horse for like 1,000 rand or 500 rand. As a young horse, it had shins and had problems, and the trainer gave it away. And my father bought it for like 500 rand and ended up winning 14 races with it as a racehorse. So there's some incredible stories. Nothing came easily. So from finding horses at riding schools, and it ended up a 14-time winner. So an incredible story. And finding a good horse. Yeah. So in those days, that's how my father had to find a good horse. Nowadays, there's nothing easy about it. We go to every sale. We look at every horse. Yeah. There's not a horse at a sales that goes by unless it's not at the sales that we don't look at it. Yeah. So we start with let's say 300-400 horses at a sale, and we break it down to a short list of which everyone will have their say. And obviously we're involved with clients at the. So some clients like to be heavily involved. Like I'll have like Nick Johnson has his own eye for a horse as well, and he will be heavily involved. He finds, which is a very good way for owner, is that they want to be involved in the purchasing. That's half the fun. Yeah. Then you have other type of people who have their own team, their own racing managers, their own setup, and then obviously you have the ones that are stud owners and are at the sales and they will buy a horse and say, "Oh, Justin, will you please train it for us?" Yeah. So there's all these different ways of acquiring horses and the good horses. I think the breeders in South Africa are a key for a trainer. Make no mistake. Living in Cape Town gives us total access to those breeders here in the Western Cape, which is a massive advantage as opposed to training anywhere else. So as I said, and then obviously having an agent like John Freeman that will then also play his part in acquiring those horses that you want to train. There's nothing easy about it. As I keep saying, you've got to work hard and go look for those horses. Yeah.
Tell us about the story of Do It Again. How did you come about buying him, training him, and winning the July? How's the journey been with Do It Again, and what are you planning for him?
Well, look, it's been amazing. He's an incredible horse. I mean, as it stands now, he's the highest ever rated horse in South African history. He's on big days. He's really good. We obviously had a hiccup this summer. They changed the dates of the races. Just didn't work out for us. We had endless. I don't want to get into it. It was just if everything could go wrong, it did. From track management to it was just a disaster. We found a few hiccups with him. So he's in good nick. He's in Natal at the moment. Yeah. Everything's going well. So from that point, from his help, and so that everyone knows, he's an amazing horse. He's a character. He's my favorite ride on the beach. Yeah. He's just a horse that I really have enjoyed training. He was at book one. Let's make sure I get it right. I'm sure it was book one here in Cape Town. Bernard Cantor had imported the stallion into South Africa twice over. Yeah. So Bernard Cantor was obviously very keen on it. He was one of the best looking horses at the sales. So from John Freeman had Jack Mitchell, who was very keen on him. Bernard Cantor, very keen on him. And then Nick and I were also looking at it, and Nick loved him. Nick had to have him. Yeah. So we were very nervous because everyone seemed to like him. Yeah. That meant that we had to get a good team together. So that's where Johnny comes into play and gets them all together. And, we said to Nick, we need to get on board here with everybody else. Otherwise we're going to have to overpay for him. Yeah. So, rather having everyone have a go at him and pay a crazy amount, we could just get our clients together and work together. And they were all just the people, every trainer wants your dream owners. And we managed to get that together and managed to purchase him. He wasn't cheap at the time because Twice Over was a freshman sire. So we had to pay a little bit extra. He was a very good looking horse and just amazing horse to have been part of.
Would you mind sharing how much you paid for him? Or not?
I think it was about R1 million. It was about $1 million. No, it was about R1 million. So at the time, that was quite a lot of money for a horse that was a freshman sire, by a freshman sire. So it was about R1 million, and he became worth a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
in money terms and in how much we love him. The horse always looks a lot better off in the winner's box.
100%. 100%. And then how has the journey of training him been? How's that been for you?
Oh, he was a nightmare.
Yeah.
He was the most I don't want to use people would use like someone's pig-headed. It's not fair to use that word, and it's just too good a horse. He was strong-minded. Let me use that word. He was so strong-minded. So what he would do is, if he didn't want to do something, you had no chance. Yeah. So when you saw the starting stalls, he didn't want to go in. He was not going to go in.
He was not going to go in.
There was no chance. He would reverse, but he wouldn't care what was behind him.
Yeah.
He would just reverse into anything. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've got my work cut out here. This is going to be a long road. So I got Milan for a little while, and then that didn't work well. And then we gave it a break. Then we got Milan again. And by then he was more, Milan knew him and because Milan realized there was no breaking point with Do It Again. He was just too strongly minded. So eventually we had to do things his way, at the same time make him do what we needed him to do. What did help a lot, without a doubt, was especially going into a float, because originally we couldn't get him into a float. Once I got him in, I took him down to the beach. Yeah. And he experienced that. I've never seen a horse. He walked from the truck into the ocean. Didn't turn left, didn't turn right, didn't care about a wave. Straight into that ocean, and it's been his happy place his whole career. It's incredible. Then once we started taking him to good places like that, he started walking into the float, and in doing that, eventually walking into all starting stalls, and he gained trust in humans. So I don't know why he never had that trust, because there was no reason not to have the trust, but he gained it eventually, and now you can't separate him and my daughter.
Yeah. Nice. And how is it when you just tell me about how, like, the journey of winning your first Group 1, and then the next, and then the next, and then the July, and then the next July. How was that for you? I'm sure it must have been a really exciting experience, seeing that, okay, this seems like the best horse in the country. You won one Group 1, and then the next, and
there was always that feeling about him. Bernard Fade Herb was one of the first guys to win races on him. And one thing about Bernard is that he finds good horses. Like I say, some trainers, they just have that knack of finding a good horse. Bernard has ridden probably just about every one of my top racehorses in their first few races. Yeah. He knows how to look after a young horse, how to bring them through the paces. And he knew straight away. He said, "This is." He said he'd never ridden a horse like it. Like, he'd ridden Pocket Power, and he's ridden. This was a different type of horse. Even before he even won a big race, he says, "Justin, when this horse is good, it's a different type of horse. It's not a Dynasty or a Savannah or all the different standards, because Twice Over is a new sire. It's a new type of good horse. When he drops the hammer, and his acceleration is mind blowing. And he'll go through a wall. I mean, Do It Again will go through a wall if he needs to get to the finish line. It's the most incredible, different type of superstar, and it was always there. You go back and look at all his races when he got beat. He was either drawn in the bush, at the back of the field, couldn't get a run. There were always reasons. So when he finally got that gap in a race and ran through it, then you saw what the potential was. You can go back to every good champion horse I've had. You can go back into the career, go watch them win their maiden, you can watch Osudana win a maiden. She won it by 6. there's always that moment in their career where they show they can run.
They can run.
Whether they come from, I'll never forget Dance's daughter, first time around the turn at Kenilworth, from 20 lengths back. It was the most incredible race. You go watch, you say, oh my goodness. So they show that potential somewhere along the line, early in their career. Now you have to nurse it to getting to do it consistently all the time. So when we got to the Durban season and he won the Guineas, the Natal Guineas, and the way he won it, we knew it's game on. The Daily News, there were reasons, there were problems, it was an extremely strong race, the Daily News. And on the way to the race course, on the float, all these top horses were on. They were unplayable on the track. Surcharge and a whole lot of horses. We didn't know them. So you bring the Joburg horses, Durban horses, Cape Town horses, all on a float together. No one knows the characters of these horses.
100%.
And by the time Do It Again got to the race course, he was just dripping sweat. Surcharge was doing backflips in the truck. One of the other top horses in the race as well. I can't remember what his name was. It was a change. So then we realized, because you remember he is this quirky type of horse. So we then decided rather get his own float to the race course, and he was a different horse.
Oh, nice. You know, it's just really interesting for everybody that's listening and watching to actually just hear that there's more into training than just taking a horse to the track and training it. You know, you got to take it to the beach. You got to understand the characters. You need to like single out some characteristics that you think might be detrimental to the horse's performance. So that's really, really interesting to hear. And how's the feeling of winning the July twice with Do It Again?
Look, it was incredible. You know, to live a moment and then be allowed to relive that moment again is just in sport is just it's just such a bonus. It's such a privilege. It's an amazing feeling. Because once you reach those moments, you always want to relive it. So to be allowed to do it again is incredible. It's been an amazing journey, and you know, it's not over. So
it's not over. I like that.
No. So we're working hard. And you know, something else I want to say. So what has always been very important in my training career is that racing has always seemed to have just been so negative, and always we just haven't gone the way we hoped in South African racing. And I really hope that we're getting to a point now where we have no choice but to go up. I've always, from my side, my training and my work ethics have always been to try be better and better every season, no matter how bad and dead and gloom things may be around me. My team always aspired to be better this season and the next season and the next season. So I really tried to keep my head up and achieve those little goals that I've given myself. Whether, as you can see behind me, our farm looks amazing. So I'll work on that, and me arriving at work, seeing that it looks better, means that I've kept up the standards that I've always wanted it to be, especially when I go take on international trainers, or one day things might happen. I'd like to think that I've kept myself to a level of high regard amongst international standards.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, like you've won like the biggest races in the country. And talking about the biggest races in the country, is the July the biggest race that you've won? Or like what I'm trying to say is that is it the highlight of your career? Or could there be another moment that was maybe extraordinary than that?
No, look, it would have to be, because the one thing you have at the July, look, for the purists, they don't agree because it's a handicap. So what happens is a lot of the times a horse with the right weight will win the Vodacom Durban July. But when Do It Again wins it with 60 kilos on his back, giving Rainbow Bridge, giving all these horses weight, that's a moment worth, that's very hard to achieve. You've taken the hardest race in the country and you've given the whole field weight. That would Do It Again has to be his biggest moment, without a doubt, hands down. The lead up to the July is way bigger than any race at the moment. The Met was very close to that. The Met, it's lost its way a little bit, but it made a bit of a comeback last year.
Yeah.
It needs a bit of marketing behind it to get it back to where it was, and just a few changes. But the lead up to the Vodacom Derma July is an incredible one. Gold Circle do a phenomenal job with their efforts and how they've marketed at the moment. I mean, it really is, as it stands at the moment, by far the biggest race in South Africa. And, you know, there's such a history of winners of the race to be part of being on that podium of people that have reached amazing results is a dream for any one of us. I mean, it's just it's been amazing. Finishing first, second, and third, I thought was
that was incredible.
I never thought. I know Millard did first, second, third, and fourth, and I never thought I'd see something like that again. So, but it doesn't click. I wake up the next day and worry about the following week coming. So
yeah.
It's short lived. You're only as good as your last win.
100%. 100%. One thing that I learned and have been, I thought about it I kind of like obsessed about it. Not now anymore, but it was the idea that you should let compliments just go over your head as well as insults. When you start not being romantic about compliments and being emotional about them, like then you're not going to be worried about the insults, because when you start internalizing all the compliments, then you think you're going to grow a big head, and then when people say bad stuff about you, that's going to affect you as well, you know. So that's
it's hard. It's easier said than living it. I'm not one that takes because I work so hard at things, and I really do try my best. So I don't take bad comments well, because half the time the person commenting on it doesn't know the truth of what's going on. That sometimes does annoy me. So I remember Gary Player once saying, good press, bad press, it doesn't matter as long as they spell your name right. Sadly, in racing at the moment, which I think is not a good thing, is the finger pointing on the social media. It seems every person has their comment against everybody. It's terrible.
I agree.
Sporting Posts are always putting on articles, and I get that we need a media, and but sometimes it's just maybe a bit too much, in my opinion. We are all trying so hard, you know. It's sometimes not fair on, especially some individuals that are really doing everything they can, and then you just see these ridiculous comments. So I feel I can take it. I've taken it my whole life, to be honest. I've been a trainer, or in the limelight in a way as a young person. I've got to deal with it. It does, like you say, it does go over my head. I'm not too worried about it, but I do feel sorry for some people sometimes that you know what, it's always easy picking on an easy victim, and a lot of people pick fights that they can always win, and always feel sorry for the underdog. That part of it I don't like.
100%. What has been something that you've learned in your career that changed your career, that changed the way you think? Like, is there a book that you learned, that you read, or is there a piece of advice that you might have gotten from someone that stuck with you until today and just flipped your game upside down in a good way?
Look, as I said, the first thing is a team. Make no mistake. Once we got that team, we were stronger. Make no mistake. What I do think is seeing things that maybe other people can't. It's like when I walk into my yard, I can see that's there, and I can see something's not right. It's like anyone walking into their factory, that's their niche. There are guys that are involved, and they'll walk into a factory and go, that's wrong. And you go, geez, how did you know it? You said, well, I've been doing this every day of my life. When you get a horse and it has a problem, is to turn it around, make it as comfortable and sound. And there are a lot of things that can happen to a racehorse, a lot of things. And it's learning how to fix those problems and get them into races. So there's just certain things that I've managed to pick up along the way and learn, because sometimes there's no book that can tell you how to deal with the situation. You can read as much as you want, but when you're living it and it's standing in front of you, you better learn fast.
100%.
So that has been that's been a big thing for me.
100%. And how do you stay a high performer? So how do you maintain the level of excellence that you have right now? How do you stay up there?
We never stop learning.
Yeah.
We never stop willing to change. I've seen a lot of trainers so I've been fortunate to, I've been training. My whole life has been around the whole racing fraternity. So I've seen guys not being able to change or see that they need to change. And sometimes you can't change too much. There's an art to it. But one thing that must never change, especially for myself and certain horsemen, is their love for horses. We're here because we love horses. If I wanted to be a wealthy person, I would never become a racehorse trainer. I can assure you, that was never ever my thought, thinking, hey, wow, I want to be a good trainer one day, hopefully, and I'm going to live in a fancy house and money. Trust me, if I wanted to do that, I would not have got involved in horse racing. I'm here purely because I love horses. I play polo. Every time I can spend around them, I do. It's been part of my life, part of my family's life, and will be part of my children's life.
So if I would say, Justin, I've got R1 billion here for you, you don't have to work a day or a minute of your life ever again. Take this money or carry on doing what you're doing. It would obviously be horse racing.
Well, listen, you're asking me in a bad time. If you asked me 6 months ago, I'd rather have the horses, but at the moment I might take that.
I don't blame you. But
it's just as I said, and so that's why when I go to the tracks in the morning, and you're just surrounded by people that love the horses. It's not just myself; it's the other trainers, the other assistants, yourself, all of us. I mean, we're here because we love the sport. It's an incredible sport. Make no mistake. I know that the moment, I know government don't seem to like as much, it seems, and it's just sad because I just get the feeling we're not that highly thought of. Like you don't see much press about the struggles that are going on at the moment. You're hearing about Comme, and you're hearing about a lot of other industries that are suffering. I mean, the surfers can't go surf, but you're not hearing anything about the struggles the horse racing fraternity at the moment. And it's such an important part, in my opinion, because there's so much out for people through these horses. And the enjoyment of racing, and the amount of people that are employed, and families that are fed on the backs of racehorses. And that concerns and worries me. I really hope that we finally at that point where we will go forward, because as I said, it's the most amazing sport. I don't care what people say. I've seen the wealthiest people in the world with the biggest businesses. When that horse of theirs hits the front 200 up, it's like you've never heard a word. The voice that comes out of it, it's unbelievable. Just to show that feeling, because it's a very difficult sport. There's nothing easy about it, but when you do win that race, it makes it all worthwhile.
100%. I've got a couple of quick questions here. I like to call them quick-fire questions, and you can just briefly answer them. So, can anybody be a high performer?
Look, everyone can reach their dreams. It's. I know this is me a quick question, but it's not so easy. If you work hard enough at what you dream to be, yes, you can. You can,
100%. But then you find that, like, at the moment, entrepreneurship is very it's like a trending thing with people my age. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. People are even lying, taking photos of money and throwing on their beds, and then taking pictures of that, and then putting CEO on their Instagrams and stuff like that. But you find that not a lot of people are actually cut out to be entrepreneurs and athletes sometimes. You know what I mean? Some people just don't have it in them. Some people are not talented. Some people don't have the love and the passion for it. You know, some people are happier working in a corporation or in the corporate world.
Exactly. It's
you know
something,
what I mean?
without a doubt. I couldn't agree with you more. I do think if I could, what I've seen from certain dealing with high-end business, successful businessmen, and dealing with, let's say, some jockeys or stuff like that, there is a massive difference in their communication skills and stuff like that. I could SMS or phone my biggest clients, and they would answer the phone. I could phone a jockey and he doesn't answer his phone. I could phone, do you know what I'm saying? Even a friend of mine who's bad at communication, that will reflect on his business and stuff. So I think you've got to be switched on. You've got to be part of what's going on in nowadays. And as I said, just to think that somebody's extremely successful businessman, wealthy person, if you think they're not going to answer their phone, trust me, they'll be the first ones that answer their phone. Or you send a message, they'll reply to you first. It's as simple as that. And it's not just one, it's all of them. They are switched on.
I like that. I just actually wrote a note here that I need to be better at communication because I'm trying to be one of the richest people alive.
It's a matter of time. Don't worry. It's a matter of time.
I know. Trust me, Justin. I know. I'm always living in the future, man. I'm living 10 years from now. I know what car I'm going to be driving, what house I'm going to be living in, and the color of the dress my wife is going to be wearing inside my BMW, the perfume she's going to be wearing, the conversations we're going to be having. I've got it all planned out, man. All right, next question. Give me 3 non-negotiable behaviors that you and the people around you must buy into.
Meaning?
Like 3 characteristics that you need, like you just strictly do, and you expect people around you to also buy into.
Think before you talk.
I like that.
That for me is a big thing. So many people react, and at the moment, especially in racing, it is our biggest problem on a lot of things. People are just so quick to have a go. So I think before you say, especially nowadays, when you type something on a piece of on a phone and send it to somebody, it's binding. You have literally written a letter to everybody, because that person can take that and expose you to what you got to be so careful nowadays. So I think it's so easy for people to post things on Facebook and stuff. Think about it and who you might be hurting. So that advice is quite a big thing, because a lot of things seem to be like that nowadays. So that would be one thing I find it very important, which even for myself, because I'm quite impulsive. I've learned through my clients that I deal with to be more like that. And I think for me, a big thing is also people that don't think about other people's feelings and things like that. It's just a big thing at the moment for me. I think we have to be more. There's too many insults, as I keep saying, going around, and it's not fair on some people.
And what advice would you give to teenage Justin Snaith? If you could go back in time and tell yourself something about your career now, and maybe if this piece of advice could make you even be more successful, what would you tell Justin Snaith?
You know what? One thing I'll say is I had a job. I loved every minute of it. I never held back on anything. Look, now things are a little bit more serious and a little bit of family to think about, and our industry to think about. There's a lot of things that seem to come into one's mind. But when I was young in this industry, there was no better place to grow up. I mean, you can travel the country, you get to share it with horses, you wake up in the morning. I used to surf on Durban beachfront. I would never take any of it back. And I used to go out, have fun, dinners, party. But 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm back at work. Whether it meant I had to sleep in my surfboard cover at the stables, I did. I was at work that next morning, looking as fresh as I possibly can, and got the job done. But I can honestly say, enjoy yourself. Enjoy it. it's a hard industry. It's tough, but you have to enjoy it, especially if you're a young person. You're going to meet the most incredible, you're going to meet people that your friends always dream of meeting in this racing industry. You're going to meet not the person that is at the front office at a massive company. You're going to meet the person that sits in that desk that no one gets to meet up top. It is a door to the most amazing people in the world, and people from all over the world. So enjoy it. There's no better place.
Nice. Do you have a golden rule for living a high performance life? Like, is there could be nothing that you maybe live by, but is there one rule that
there's got to be a cutoff point. You've got to have a cutoff point. I've grown up in Cape Town, where a lot of just remember that this is a high life sort of living. You've got to, you can push boundaries as much as you want, but there's got to be points where you have to, if you're going to be who you want to be in an industry, you've got to always keep that image and keep true to yourself and to all the people around you. You've got to be very, very careful. There's always a fine line of being out of control, of having fun and being out of control. I've been very fortunate that my passion and my love were always horses. So I always would come back to that. That was always my thoughts, where some friends and people wouldn't have that. So it's very hard to rein in things and come back to yourself, but because they're not in a happy place. So I was very fortunate in that horses and that were where my addiction was.
Yeah. And then, okay, so I've got two more questions. I'd love to ask you, like, I've got like so many questions in my head that I'd like to know, but I've got two more questions. How are you clever? So some people are talented in sports, rugby, chess. Some people are intellectually talented, so clever is just a word that I like to use instead of talent. I think it's nice. It sounds English, like how the Brits speak.
Yeah.
So how are you clever?
Yeah. Well, look, I grew up in a tough environment, which I thought certainly has helped. I never really thought of myself as being clever, but talent. My drive and my ambition made me clever to what I needed to accomplish. That's what I think makes you clever, is in your own environment, what you want to, your goals and how and what you can accomplish. You've got to be clever. I mean, it's because the competition's so strong. You better be clever, because if you're not, you're going to be found wanting. So as I said, I don't think I'm that clever person, but I know how to survive.
100%. With me, it's basically like talent. Like what are my talents? With me, I find it that I'm very motivated and inspired. So I honestly believe that I can start any business and be successful in it, whether it's being starting a mechanic shop, or starting a supermarket, or starting a forex or stock market business. I believe that I can do anything.
Well, look, I think you're doing very well already. The first time I came to Natal, I said, my brother and I identified that you were certainly a breath of fresh air. It's so much what the industry needed. And all along there you were already. So they didn't even have to look for you. You found them. So Gold Circle, very fortunate to have you, I can assure you. And we need a lot more like yourself. Here you are already talking to me flat out. And I think it's incredible.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you very much. Last question is, if you were to have dinner with anybody in the world, dead or alive, any of your 4 idols, who would they be?
Wow. Well, listen, I could insult some people by not mentioning them. I've never been that type of person, because obviously there are a lot of famous people, but they're not really involved in horses. So to be honest, just some of my, if I'm more on the experience that I've had some most incredible dinners. So it'll be to spend it. You know what would be the most? Spending it with one of those winning owners, a group of us, we normally used to go to, in the old days, it used to be the Edward in Durban.
Yeah.
And we'd go for a dinner. When we won the Melbourne Cup, when I was part of the team, we went to the Crown Casino afterwards for a massive dinner with all the winning owners and jockeys and stuff like that. And now we do the Lighthouse in Durban. What's it? The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
What's the
Beverly Hills,
hotel called? Next door to the Beverly Hills.
Oyster Box.
The Oyster Box. How can I forget?
Yeah.
So you know what it'd be like, winning the Vodacom Durban July, and having that dinner with the winning owners afterwards, and winning connections. That for me would be the dinner I would dream of.
Yeah. I see you try to include as many people as you can. Okay. Now I promise you this is the last question. What are the goals that the Snaith team has? What can we maybe we shouldn't expect it, but what are some things that as a team internally and as a business you guys are just trying to achieve in the next couple of years?
You know, without a doubt, honesty, effort, trying not just for ourselves, but to try and make this racing game as entertaining and as enjoyable for everybody, to see the light at the end of the tunnel where racing will be flying, sponsors coming back, all that sort of thing. That is, without a doubt, takes preference of everything at the moment. So we just, if we can get through this now, I can't see anything stopping us. So it's never going to be harder than it is at the moment. So if we get through this, then it's going to be easy afterwards.
Mr. Snaith, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and it was very interesting. Thank you.
Awesome. Absolute pleasure. Great. And see you soon.
See you soon, definitely. Take it easy.
Catch you later.
Although we have it, ladies and gentlemen, that was Justin Snaith. A very interesting character, man. It was very, very nice and cool getting to know him. He's a very, very interesting guy. You know, and in these podcasts or these videos or these interviews, I just want to get to know athletes and high performers and why they high performers. I'm really interested in that, and hopefully I'd like to actually talk with Anton Marcus. He's a guy that I actually look up to in many ways because he's a high performer. You know, I think in racing, he's probably at the pinnacle of high performance. He's probably, in fact, in my perspective, he's the best jockey in the country. But anyway, Justin Snaith, man, thank you very much for your time. And Justin Snaith seems like he's a man that has some strong beliefs, and strong beliefs in high performance and standard, and the caliber of life and performance he wants and he expects people around him to adhere to. So I find that really fascinating. You know, I think if you it goes back to the saying of, or to the idea that if you want to be successful, you need to ensure that the people around you are also successful. You need to be around people who are at the level that you aspire to be at. So I think he's created that environment around him, and yeah, like I said earlier on, he seems he's got these beliefs that he doesn't compromise in his life. You know, he's got things need to be done a certain way at a certain standard so that we achieve the best in what we do, which is horse racing. So thank you for watching, and if you've watched until the end, I can't thank you enough. You are a champion. This is the High Performance Zone, and you, my friend, if you've watched this till the end, you are a high performer. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.